Good morning, everyone. This is Luciana Turner of the edition of LT&A Contractor Conversation. I decided to interrupt Morning Tidbit to bring this to you this morning because I just felt that the announcement of the president's initiative was important enough to dedicate a conversation to. And it was more than I can do justice to in 5 minutes. So here we are. As you enter the room, please drop a comment in the comment box. If you have questions for me, please drop them in the comment box as well, and I will try to get to them before the end of the presentation. If not, I will do a follow up and I will definitely send out an email that will address all the questions you may have. So, the purpose of this morning's conversation is to discuss the president's new proposal, which is being called the Build Back Better plan. It is President Biden's answer to a sluggish economy as a result of coronavirus and the year long shutdown that we have experienced as a nation. Quite frankly, it's more than a year. The year mark was hit in March. So we're we're tumbling into a second year, and quite frankly, the economy is struggling. Businesses have been closed, um, and as a result, the money being pumped into the economy through commerce and taxes have been reduced significantly. And although there are companies excelling and will record record profits this year, Uber, Instacart, Zoom. I mean, Zoom saw a 2,000% boost in their income this year. That's amazing. That's ridiculous, but that is amazing. So this is his initiative, and it's being touted as the most aggressive Restore America plan since the institution of Social Security. Um, and President Biden is go big or go home, and he definitely went big with this one. So the initiative is in two parts. One is a social welfare component, and that has a price tag of about $1 trillion, and that is T, capital T trillion. That isn't what we're going to discuss this morning. We're focusing on the infrastructure component of this package, which has a price tag of $2 trillion. And that's massive. And I want to talk to you because every conversation I've heard about it so far, people are throwing out the same big dogs, the same names, in which I'm saying, why is that? And that is because these companies do something that small businesses do not do well, and that is position. Small businesses do not position themselves for the win at the level that the bigger companies do. And I want to change that. And I want to change that with this conversation that we're having this morning. So, the conversation is going to be a brief overview of what is contained in his proposal. And then I want to drop some suggestions some keys to you and how you can position yourself for the win. Because quite frankly, it is time for our small businesses to position themselves. It is time out for sitting back and letting the bigger companies dominate in this field. And if you just give me a moment, I'm trying to. Okay, I just had to let someone into the conversation. But anyway, I digress. So we're going to discuss the components of it, what it currently looks like, and then we're going to delve into some strategies, quite frankly, of how you can potentially get a piece of the pie. And at $2 trillion, even a 0.0001% piece of that size of a pie is a game changer. So let's get started. The $2 trillion package is not going to come through Congress as one mega bill. What I'm seeing is that it's coming through in parts. There are going to be some large initiatives that's going to get through Congress and the Senate. And then I'm also seeing where it's coming through in parts where they're authorizing spending in this way and they have a HR bill that way. I am not going to address anything that has to do with a stimulus that is going to individuals. That is not what I do and is not pertinent to this conversation. I am only going to address the particular components that are important to this conversation. So the package entails road repairs, it entails climate change, there's going to be some modernization of transportation of the tune of $621 billion. That is important. They're tackling healthcare in, in this initiative to the tune of $400 billion. Manufacturing, $300 billion. Retrofitting and new affordable housing to the tune of $213 billion. See, the opportunity is there. It's rich, it's expansive, and I want to see my clients and I want to see my audience win and win in a big way. The the money is there. But let's talk about it. They're replacing lead pipes. So what we're seeing in this initiative is a call to arms to everyone, not just the engineers, not just the construction workers, but we're also seeing electricians being called for. We're seeing plumbers being called for. We're seeing uh, every trade being called forth, bricklayers, cement layers, if you do any type of drywalling, that is what we're seeing with this initiative. Now, will all of it get pushed past? Because the package is so big, even if he only gets a tenth of it passed, a tenth of $2 trillion is still 200 billion. Let's just keep this thing real. And the initiative is going to be through one, government, federal government spending, and two, state level spending. So there's money going to be, and opportunities are going to present themselves on both levels. I just was sat through a conference call where now this is specific to Virginia, but however this initiative is nationwide, where Virginia is pumping money into not only re-upping or renewing its transportation because quite frankly they realize there are too many cars on the road. There's no way to expand 95 any further. So they're going to transportation such as commuter transportation. Well, there's dollars in the construction of the new tracks. There's dollars in the maintenance of the new tracking. There are dollars available in the back end after the construction is over with the upkeep and things of that nature. So that's the state of Virginia. Well, there's an initiative, quite frankly, to connect the entire eastern seaboard. So within 10 years, I believe was the number they threw out, they're actually anticipating being able to get a train and do a straight through from where you live, America, to New York for a weekend trip, or from where you live, America, to Miami for a weekend trip and never have to put your car on the road. They're tackling climate change from the perspective of increasing rail traffic and decreasing the emissions from automobiles. There's this whole initiative to build 500,000 vehicle recharge stations across this country. Now, I don't know how many electric cars are out on the road, so I'm tossed and driven about this. However, that is a huge opportunity for electricians. Huge. Because, quite frankly, who could put up those stations but electricians who are going to do the wiring to connect those stations to a power source? Electricians. You know, so the opportunities, once again, you're going to hear me say that repeatedly, are endless. There's an initiative through the HBCUs where they're partnering with HBCUs to do research and development. I sat on a conference call last week where they discussed the partnership between business and HBCUs. And I believe one agency that was on the call already has or is going to be approved within the next week. I can't remember. A $821 million contract vehicle for development and research work. And if you all you have to do to get a part of that contract is essentially join that consortium. And I was just like, wow, that's amazing. But how many people knew about it? I was on the call and I think there was a good 70 companies on there. And out of that 70, there was about 20 plus who, according to the survey results, did not identify themselves as small businesses according to the SBA standard. So that means out of 70 so companies, 25, shall we say, were large businesses, the rest were small businesses. But yet and still, um, the numbers are showing small businesses are starting up at a phenomenal rate. So where was the presentation? Where were they? Why weren't they jumping at the bit to learn about a potential opportunity? I was on a call, and I'm gonna tell you this pre-bid meeting really worked my soul. But I was on a call with the Minority Business Development Agency, and they have currently a grant out that is worth $2.5 million over the course of 5 years to provide business development. But the nature of the questions in that call was driving the presenter crazy and it drove me crazy because it was obvious the participants were not well informed. But once again, there were not a lot of companies on that call. And while that particular initiative services a particular area, they kept saying that this grant only services this area. This grant at this time that's out at this particular moment only covers this particular area. Hey, there's going to be other grants out. And due to COVID 19, they actually have waived a very significant requirement, which is a barrier to entry with these types of grants for a lot of small businesses for the first 2 years. So not only do you have 2 years to perform, you have 2 years to get your game up so you can meet that matching requirement. But once again, where were the small businesses? The opportunities are endless and they're being presented in different forms, but it's all a part of President Biden's proposal. So, my question to you is, are you ready? My question to you is, have you begun the work to position yourself? And what I'm seeing is there's a lot of people not in position. There's a lot of people missing the goalposts on these opportunities. And I don't, I really don't know how else to say this, but it is boundless. But I digress. So let's go into how we can develop a strategy around these potential opportunities. One, you need one of the biggest companies being banded about as, quite frankly, a front runner for receiving the bulk of this work is Halliburton. Halliburton has historically received the lion's share of any type of infrastructure work. So, my suggestion to you is get out there, and start your research on Halliburton. What it take for you, or what will it take for you to come in with them as a partner? What does partnering with Halliburton look like? Halliburton will be um, hosting a couple of subcontractor events and be in the room. Be in the room with your capability statement, be in the room with your, I hate the term elevator pitch, so you're going to hear me kind of stray away from that terminology. So be prepared. When you're meeting with these companies, I'm going to tell you right now, the initial meeting at networking events and such will only be about 3 minutes. They run these events, excuse me, they run these events like speed dating. So you're going to have to get in, sit down, make an impression within 3 minutes, be able to send a digitized version of your capability statement and any type of company materials to the presenter. Some of them will take a hard copy on site, some of them won't. Now, we're still in the days of COVID, so there are not a lot of face to face events yet. There are face to face events coming towards the later portion of this year. However, there's a lot going on via Zoom. So I would say get in there, attend these Zoom events, be proactive. If you cannot attend and be present full time, I would suggest either hiring an assistant, and if you're not in a position to hire somebody, and we're going to talk about that a little later, I would suggest tapping into your untapped resources. You would be surprised by the people in your network who would be willing to sit in on a business meeting on your behalf to obtain the information. Some of these sessions, all you have to do is sign up for it, and they will send you the recording after it's done. So you don't always have to be present if you're so happen to be a paranelpreneur, which is working a full-time job and you're setting up your business. And that is difficult. I did it for a number of years. I understand the time constraints around that. And then if you have family, yeah, we've really maxed out time. But when you come across these events, sign up. They will send you the recording. And what I'm also seeing is they're sending you the contact information for the presenters. Now, what I'm not going to tell you to do is just get that contact information and spam them. No, actually watch the recording. Listen to what they're telling you because it's the key information for how to get in the door. This whole I'm a mass email or blanket email everybody the same thing does not work, especially in government contracts. Because if you're sending me an email telling me about your administrative services, but what I am looking for are IT related services, I have not only not read your information, I have deleted it. So come from the position of this is what they're saying they're looking for. These are the services they offer. How can I position myself? Even if you do not provide direct on services, there is a such thing as corollary services. Everybody needs a project manager. Everybody needs a business analyst, financial analyst, some type of analyst. So why, whereas this may be an IT firm you're reaching out to, and I just used as the example because I just got finished talking about IT. But they may be an IT firm, however, they still need other services which may not be indigenous or housed within that agency or that company. And this is where you step in, positioning yourself to be a helper or a power partner to deliver those services so they do not have to expand into a service area that, quite frankly, they may not want to expand into. That is the purpose of subcontracting. Subcontracting, reaching out to subcontractors, is basically saying, I do X. I'm not doing this other stuff. So let me partner with another company that provides those services, and then I can wrap it into my proposal as the prime to the government. And don't let anyone tell you differently. Subcontracting is one of the best ways to break into government contracts. I remember in corporate, my first year in government contracting, I saw subcontractors working on projects to the tune of $300 million a year, and they were subs. They didn't prime on anything. Their whole business model was, I'm going to provide the services that the bigger companies do not wish to provide. And I don't know about anybody else, $300 million company sounds nice to me. And the companies that were able to scale to that level is because they knew how to network, they knew how to spot opportunities, they knew how to stay ever present. Our president, this is not a political post, this is not a political stance, so please don't come in here with your political commentary. They will get deleted, you will get blocked, and we're going to move on. However, our current administration is proposing a $2 trillion package, portions of which are already on in the streets, portions of which are already in negotiations and will be approved within the next few weeks, according to some of the calls that I have been on. I mentioned earlier the $821 million contract through this one company to do research and development. And all you have to do is join their consortium, which does not have a cost. There are some prerequisites you have to meet, but guess what? If you're in business, you're going to have to meet them anyway. So go ahead and meet the requirements. Join the consortium. If you do not do research and development, they did, and this was a brilliant question somebody asked on that call. They did say there are other services that they will be contracting out because they do not house those capabilities internally. What did I just hear? I heard opportunity. I don't do research and development, but I do project management. I do financial analysis. I do financial reporting. These are things that are not housed within that particular agency. Opportunity. And I'm going to say this, and this is going to step on some toes, and I don't care. Take politics out of your business. It is okay to have a stance, and we as human beings want to impact the world that we exist and we live in. However, we should not be limiting our abilities to make that impact because we're standing on an ideological quicksand. You may not like the current administration, you may not have liked the last one. Eh, Business isn't about liking on a personal level. Business is about how do I grow? And then how can I then take a portion of the revenue that I've brought into my company to make the impact that I want to see? We need to adopt the mindset of business is business, and then the societal impact we make will be done through donations, philanthropic giving, however that looks. And that's another conversation for another. But I just want to plant that mindset out of I don't like a particular person and get into developing an eye for what what is, excuse me, available and how can I position. As business owners, we need to be just thinking positioning and strategy, positioning strategy, positioning strategy. That's what we should be doing. But let me get back into this. The current proposal also includes a national laboratory, which will be in conjunction with HBCU. And I believe the price tag attached to that was $2 billion. That's that's something. If your company provides or specializes in climate control or climate change of any way, shape, or form, if you do the research and development piece, if you're one of those companies that provide clean energy, well, there's $20 billion dedicated towards getting us off of the current energy model into low carbon force energy. So once again, and those initiatives are going to be run through the Department of Energy, and some of them is actually going to go through housing, and that may be like a shocker. However, with the 200 so $1 billion that's being dedicated to retrofitting and the creation of affordable housing, we also have to keep in mind that also includes reducing emissions through smart technology. So if you're an energy company and you provide clean energy and you haven't been able to quite make that work, here's an opportunity for you to start being partners. Get into the meeting and partnering a little better. So, as I said earlier, these initiatives will result in dollars being allocated to the states and contracts being run on the federal level. Now, states have historically received government money and, quite frankly, hoarded them like pack rats. This is why we want to get in early. Because if we can have conversations within the states with their various departments of transportation, with um, the health and resources of every state, excuse me, excuse me,